All right, so here we're going to start off with item number 7, where we left off from the previous video. And what we want to do is we want to make a cross-tabulated pivot table. All right, cross-tabulation just basically means is that you have a set of values in a row that identifies each row, and a set of values that identifies each column. And when you come across and you connect the two, you have a cross tabulation of all the values. Okay, so that's pretty much what that means. So we're going to create something that's going to be called a store pivot worksheet. And our first pivot table is going to be the quarters, or the quarter, which is a time value, right? It's the first quarter of the year, second quarter of the year, and whatnot. And then the store name across the top. So quarters are on the left, and store names across the top. And then inside here, what we're going to do for the cross tabulation is we're going to do the sum of total sales, but we're going to show it as a percentage of the grand total. All right, so let me show you how we're going to put that together. So let's come back over here. And so this is fun because now we're going to make a pivot table based on all of this data. So the easiest way to do that is to select on cell A1. I'm going to hit Control Shift, keep those two down, hit my right arrow, so I go all the way to the far right, and then hit the down arrow, and I selected all my data. Now, alternatively, you can select the entire, just the columns themselves, but I want to avoid having blank values inside my data set, so I'm choosing to do it this way. So Insert, Pivot Table. Okay, there's my selection, right? And I want a new worksheet, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, so now I have a new worksheet, and I have some instructions. I think I want to create rename this to Store Pivot, and I think it has to be moved to a certain location, right? So I did not give a location to it, but I think if I'm going to look at the bottom, I want it right before, right after the store attributes. Okay, so I'm going to, oh, there it is right there. So I'm good, right? Right after the store attributes. All right, so let's go back to what we have to do here in the example. I will have to put, I have to create this pivot chart similar to this, quarters, and then store names, and then in the center, I need the sum of total sales. All right. So let's start with our data here. And so pivot tables, of course, all of your values, your field values should be here. And then we have filters, columns, rows, and sum values. Okay. So I'm going to move quarters here. And I want store name. Where is store name? Store name was back here. Right there. Here we go. Right here across the top. And then I want sum of total sales. So here's total sales. And I am almost done. And I'm going to right click here inside the pivot table on any one of the values of the sum of total sales. And I want to show values as percentage of the grand total. Boom. Now, in my example online, I've modified these headers. Let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. I went and I selected all of these. I went home. I made that modification to format the cell alignment to like 45. So that way it looks that way. You do not have to do this. I just wanted to do that so people would be able to see this. All right. So that's ready to go. Now, if you can't get to the right click, show values as, you can also do the same edit here. Come down here and hit value, hit the right arrow, hit value field settings. Come up here inside the dialog, and there's this tab that says show values as, and you can hit this drop down. It should also give you the same option. You would hit OK. So that would be another way of being able to accomplish that. So with that, I'm sorry, let's get back to our instructions. So that's number 7. That's how easy that one was. All right, so now number 8, we're going to copy it, and then we're going to make some changes. So we want to remove quarter and then replace it with competition fast food. And we're going to group these starting at 1, ending at 10 by 3. All right, so what does all that mean? Well, let me show you here real quick. The great thing about pivot tables is that if you come up here and you select the entire pivot table, you can right-click copy, come down here. I'm going to go about here, right-click, and I am just going to hit paste, and it will just give you an exact duplicate of that previous pivot table. Now this next change that we're going to do, we're going to select in the new pivot table. So this is pivot table number 2. I'm going to remove quarter and come back here, put competition fast food. Oh, everything is still lining up. I want to select anywhere inside the rows here. I'm going to right click. There is an option here to group. I want 1 to 3 and 1 to 10, and I want to group it by 3. Boom. See how easy that was? And then also we have the percentage of sales here as well. Is that what we have in the instructions? Yes. All right. So let's continue on to the next one. This is part 9. And so it's another copy. All right, this time we're going to do competition other over here. So yeah, I'm going to copy the first one because if I copy the one I just did, I could have some other issues. So I'm going to right click, copy the first one, come back here beneath the second one, and I'm just going to hit paste. All right. Now I'll remove quarter again, and I'm going to just put competition other. All right, I had to do some grouping here. I can't remember what that was. So in this one, I had to group starting at 1, ending at 30 by 10. All right, so come back over here, select on this. By the way, I think you can come up here to field settings, and no, it's not there. So you have to come up here, select on any one of the row labels, right click, and go to group. Now I believe the grouping option is also available here in the Analyze section of the Pivot Table tab. So if you're selected in the Pivot Table, make sure you're selected on one of the row labels. You could also come up here to Group Selection. It was 1 by 30, and I wanted by 10. So that's another way of getting around to that. So that's an option. So if you look at these pivot tables, they should look like the examples that are in the instructions. All right, and that looks about right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video here, and then we're going to pick up here on the pivot chart that we created, and we're going to create a pivot chart, excuse me, and that's going to be based on the pivot table that we created. I can see I made a little error there, but we'll cover that in the next video. All right, so with that, we'll get started on this pivot chart in the next video.